Oh, hello there. Yes. Well, I'm not going to mention the weather, even though I just have. Yes, anyway, today I thought we'd think about what exactly we might expect from a newspaper when we're paying for it. That's the question today, kiddies. Yes, anyway, before you head off to church, we might well ponder that, because a few days ago my interest was piqued, I tell you, by Rob Moore, entrepreneur. My daughter's school announced yesterday it's shutting down. Oh no. No warning, just shutting down. Hundreds of distraught kids distraught. Why? Labour's had tax hikes on school fees and NI hikes on staff. Yes, a high-quality, nurturing school forced to close because of greedy, arrogant taxation. Disgusting. All this does is pile more pressure on overcrowded state schools. How can anyone in capitals justify taxing education? Labour are destroying the very foundations of our children's future. What an absolute disgrace. Yes, it is an absolute disgrace, isn't it? Yes. Anyway, one of the things about that, because I read the comments underneath darling Rob Moore's statement, and various people said, well, where is this school then? And Rob said, and people said, well, can you give us any more details about this? Because it strikes me as really, 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 really not very likely that a school just decides to close overnight like that. It's basically illegal anyway. And Rob said, and Rob is still saying, yes. So maybe it's really true, but it's odd that Rob doesn't want to say what the school is, because the school would have announced it, and these things crop up in the local press. That might be important in a minute. Right, so moving on, okay. Yesterday we had the very, very, very common working class person, Lawrence Fox, posting this up, okay. Socialism is just jealousy and political revenge. Which is an intriguing statement in its own right, because I thought it was an overarching political idea about the way that we run society. But anyway, perhaps not. An insidious, religion and an attack on ambition and meritocracy. That's going to be important quite soon, meritocracy, yeah. None of the parents at my kids' school are posh aristocrats. They're people who have mostly come from nothing and made a life for themselves. Yes, and he's quoting he's posted up a piece from The Telegraph, which we'll come on to in just a second. But, yes, indeed. I imagine, you see, like lots and lots and lots and lots of people like Loza Fox. There aren't a lot of them, after all, from that kind of background. But, yes, none of the parents at my kids' school are posh aristocrats. I don't know. Do you get non-posh aristocrats? Because I would argue that, to a large extent, that would actually encompass people like, Loza Fox. He has all of that working class authenticity that you get from Jeremy Clarkson. This idea of, I'll wear these awful dad jeans, and somehow that means I don't live in a house next to David Cameron. And Loza Fox has a lot of that about him. You may have noticed that he has an awful lot of money to throw around whenever he loses court cases around calling people paedophiles, which isn't a kind of average person thing, is it? No, don't think so. Anyway, I thought it'd be worthwhile just sort of diving in very slightly to the Telegraph. So, because I have a paid Telegraph subscription, I read the Telegraph piece, and it quotes 2 schools, not 3 in the title. It just quotes 2 schools, which is a bit strange when you say, there's a 3rd school closing, and somebody says, well, what 3 schools are there? And you only say 2. Anyway, the first one, which Loza Fox was banging on about with his mining and dust cart mending working class kids, anyway, is Godolphin, I guess, prep school, and this is from the local paper, to close amid Chaffing Grove partnership. And if you read it, what it actually says in the local paper, because I look these things up, good grief, anyway, is that the school is going to merge because it only has 160 kids, and it makes sense to do that. In the local paper, they do mention briefly the VAT thing, but they also cite lots and lots of other reasons. In other words, the school isn't realistically closing, and it presumably doesn't have thousands of caterwauling kids sitting outside in the cold whilst they freeze to death, or whatever stupid imagery you want to come up with. But it's simply one of those things, in the sense of that they have decided to take a commercial decision to maintain viability, which I thought was something that just kind of happened under capitalism. The second school, which is in Leicestershire, says something very, very similar, because when you read down the article in the local paper, you get to this. Barbara Matthews, chair of trustees at the school, confirmed the closure was in part due to the government moves which have seen the elimination of business rates relief, which is a bit different, if you like, from a number of other things. But leaving that, and here we go, an unexpected increase in national insurance. She said the trend towards parents choosing to send their children to school as day pupils rather than boarders had also forced the trustees to recognise that the economic consequences was unavoidable. And again, you see, a variety of different things which aren't necessarily to do with the thing that A, the Telegraph, and B, Mr. I'm an Entrepreneur Rob Moore, and C, non-posh boy Loza Fox were banging on about. Now, I don't really mind if these people want to jump up and down saying, isn't it awful that they no longer have subsidised places at school? They're entitled to do that, I suppose, one way or another. But what sticks in wherever any idea where craws are? Anyway, what sticks there, presumably my throat, is this notion that Loza Fox is very keen on meritocracy. If we're keen on meritocracy, why don't we just close all of the private schools and have everyone go to state schools? That would indeed have a level playing field, wouldn't it? And the answer to that is, well, no, we don't want to play that game, because then we'd have to change the rules somewhere else along the line to ensure that our kids get chosen to go to, Oxford or whatever it might be, and therefore end up with jobs in the media where they can call people paedophiles, presumably with impunity, possibly, or indeed maybe rob. The type of job where Rob can just make bland statements without anything to back it up. But in terms of bland statements without backing anything up, why on earth is it that I have to pay money for the Daily Telegraph and then fact check them? I realise that might be an argument by, Elon Musk or Zuckerberg that I need to do some legwork. But if I'm paying for a news service, surely at least I should get something which is factually correct, shouldn't I? Shouldn't I? Yeah? What exactly am I giving money to these people who presumably have the word journalist in their passport for, exactly? Yeah? Yeah, we'll just print stuff, but you're going to have to check if it's viable or not. Oh, okay then, fine. Do I get a subsidy? Do I get money off in terms of reading the cant that comes from the Daily Telegraph? And of course the answer is no, because like most of modern capitalism, they will simply shunt those costs onto me. It's a bit like, all those companies in the 80s that used to spend all that money advertising, saying what good customer service they had. And you realise that the way that they paid for those adverts was by getting rid of anyone that actually answered a telephone outside of Bombay. Yeah? Yes. Yes, a neat metaphor for modern capitalism, except we've gone beyond that now. Now I'm expected to pay for a service which I don't actually receive. Hey, how much is the news today? Oh, give us a £5 and you can make up your own stuff. Thanks a lot, Telegraph and Loza, and by extension Jeremy Clarkson's genes. Dear God, that man shouldn't reproduce. See what I did there? Anyway, do have a gorgeous Sunday. Don't forget to go to church. If you bump into Enoch, give him my regards. Maybe, get him a blanket, eh? Because I imagine he's still out there in the cold. Oh, Jesus. Awful. Do have a lovely, stay warm Sunday. Do so.